original handlebars on. Nothing disassembled yet. New handlebars ready to go. Replacement clutch cable. Supposedly the wiring all still works. All I've done so far is pull out these two bolts here. And according to the directions, step one, is to pull off that headlight bezel. And then it looks like I removed the headlight. I'll take pictures and videos of this as I go. Alright, so step two is with a 10mm socket. I'm going to remove the 3 hex screws as seen in that picture, which are here, here, and here, and there. And going to pull those out to pull the bezel out and remove the headlight. Alright, so I have the headlight removed. As you can see, I am labeling everything as I go. So according to the directions, the next step is basically this is just talking about removing the headlight, unplug it, blah blah blah. So I need to basically take the tank console off. Looks like it's just 2 screws. One here, and one here somewhere. I'll find it. Alright, so the directions said to just pull to loosen this screw. If I can get a video of it right there on the very left. Loosen that 2 turns. Remove that bolt and slide it off. However, what I discovered is the leather here appears to be attached under there. So I pull the seat up, which of course is just the rear seat bolt, 2 side bolts, and it appears that I can just pull this around, and then this does slide forward and out, and I will pull the connections off of there, which appear to be about 3 of them on the other side there. And I will get that off next. Alright, here's what I found out on this. Along with having to remove this from under the seat, this will not come out unless the wheel is cocked to the left. So I had to remove it from my wheel dock, bring it up on end while sitting on it, cock the wheel to the left, and then this will pop off to the right. It looks like this wiring harness, the rear bracket, that one there are 2. This one appears to be connected to nothing. This little connector connects to that and then wraps over to the right side of the whatever this thing is. It looks like the wiring harness goes inside the little mounter, little bracket there, or bolt, whatever the hell it is, which of course goes in there. So I'll be able to now disconnect these 3 connections and pull this thing off and put myself back in my wheel dock. So that is coming now, of course being very careful not to scratch anything. Alright, so I'm on step 2 now, freaking 2, and you know, there was no mention of these leather being attached and pulling the seat off and removing that. There was no mention of having to cock the wheel to get it out, so I'm a bit concerned as to how this thing will go the rest of the way, considering those are a couple of major steps that were left out. I think these instructions are pretty generic. In fact, it even said to secure the bike into a front wheel chock to do this work. But of course, you've got to take it out of the chock to get the wheel to turn. Still not entirely sure why I had to pull the tank console off. I'm sure it'll have something to do with accessing something. I don't know. We'll find out. This is a venture an adventure to go on very slowly. So we shall see what's next. Okay, so I've got all that off. Now the next step, it talks about finding all the wire bundles that come from the handlebars. It says to trace the wiring center of the handlebars. It says cut the 2 nylon straps H. I don't think we have any nylon straps. If you look where they run, it's a little clip, and it's kind of nice. I guess there's a little bit of extra slack in there. So I don't think there's anything to cut. I'm not going to cut anything until I see that I need to. But it says, of course, I'm going to label, make sure everything's plugged in the right one during reassembly. Left and right hand have identical terminals, should be labeled accordingly. So I'm going to mark all the lefts and all the rights together. And it says I should find 7 terminals, 4 right hand and 3 left hand. So I found the left hand. So if I'm looking dead on here, so you can get a perspective, if I reach up under here, I can feel the 3 wiring harnesses coming from the handlebars. I tried looking from the front, but you can't really see anything. I'm sorry, from the rear, I guess, up in here. But since all the stuff is up under here, coming out of the bar here, up under here, you can't really see or grab it. But after some digging, I determined that it's these 3 on this side, which wrap around, come out to be these 3 wiring harnesses here, which go here, here, and to this one. Now on the other side, I also, if I reach up under here, I can grab all of the wiring harnesses coming from the right side, and I only find 3 unless there's 2 bundled into this one. So I've got, if you see these move here, it's essentially this one that I just had, this one, which goes over to here, and then this one here, which routes to that one. So 1, 2, 3. And here's the 4th. This is the 4th, comes into this bundle. So this bundle here goes to 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 on the right hand side that I'll need to disconnect. So make sure everybody 1, 2, 3, 4. And on the right side, we've got 1, 2, 3. So I've got those. So I'm going to disconnect and label those. I was off a little bit. I originally thought this was one of the 4 on the right, but it's not. Trace that wire down under here. But I did find the 4th one is part of this bundle. And 1, 2, I'm sorry, I'm looking and then I'm looking at my video. 1, 2, 3, 4 over here. So I'm going to disconnect and label those. So these are my right connectors disconnected. You see there are 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can see that they're all different style connectors and different mating. So I've got 2 females here, different sizes, and a male and another female black one. So they're all going to match up to their respective connections here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is actually pretty nice. This it's got like a little board here with quick loops. You can just kind of tuck all of them in under these quick loops and pretty good little system. And of course there's that big loop over here that was catching all the slack. So that's kind of nice. And of course it's the same on the right side. I've got labeled, I'm sorry, on the left side, my right, labeled left, and same deal there. 3 different style and gender of connectors. So I've got, just like the manual, or just the instructions said, 4 right, 3 left. Now I'm going to move on to see what the next step is. Okay, so the next step, you'll notice I've got the Kuriakins on here. I think I'm going to put my stock back on with the grip heaters in this process. I was just trying these out. Anyway, the next step is to remove the clutch cable, screw there, and another screw on the other side of it. Those 2 screws right there. Hard to see while I'm doing this. There and there. Pull those out, pull the cable out, and then I will be pulling off the actual clutch handle and stashing that aside. Okay, so under here, where'd it go? You can see there is another little quick disconnect here, and then I'll be able to pull that off and remove the clutch cable from there. Okay, so clutch disconnected. In order to get the pressure off of this, I had to skip a couple steps ahead and come down here to the clutch. Basically take a pair of, what the fuck was that? Of channel locks and a cloth, and grip and turn until you can release the actual clutch. Where the hell is it? There you go. Turn until you can release the clutch cable. Gets the pressure off of that top piece, makes it easy to remove the clutch handle. So now on to the right side. Alright, so the next step was to remove the left grip, which was easy with the Kuriakin because I just had it very lightly rubber cemented on. But the stock grip is also very simple. There's just a little, you're probably going to want to remove this and pull it back, because it's difficult to get this rubber pulled back without scratching this. You can try it, but don't know how much luck you have. All you do is pull that back, remove the screw. You'll see it's basically just a bolt on the other side, but as soon as you pull that, mine had a little bit of glue in it, so I just had to kind of muscle it to get it off there, but it wasn't too difficult. So the next step before we actually get into the handlebars is to remove the brake and master cylinder. And there is a note in here, failure to continuously support master cylinder and level orientation may cause reduced braking, blah, blah, blah. So you want to keep the master cylinder level. And looking at how I'm going to do that, I think my best bet is to cut that zip tie there and then put some padding down on my fairing here and see if I can just lay it level on the fairing and leave it there for the duration of this. So hopefully that works. We shall see. Master cylinder and brake handle removed, and here they are sitting nice and level on the fairing with a towel. Okay, not only did I have to clip the zip tie from there, I removed the clamp from that bolt so that it, what the fuck is that? So that it could, the slack of the line could go up forward there, right there, and otherwise it tries to twist the handle and just can't get the thing to set level without some sort of strange mechanism. So that's what I came up with. So now it's sitting nice and level while I can finish the rest of the work. So basically now the handlebars are completely free from external stuff, just the internal wiring now. So I also have to remove the throttle, so I think that's next. Okay, so because the throttle of course is electronic, it doesn't have me take that off in the instructions until after I remove the handlebars, so that's still on there. And like I said, these are Kuryakin. I'm going to replace these with these stock grips with leathers. I think will look better. I wasn't too crazy about these Kuryakins. I'll probably sell them. So as you can see, the tank fairings, everything is all covered. I don't want these things to slip loose and then I have my tank. So I think what's kind of cool about this is the bolts for mount are there and corresponding side under there, 19 millimeter, and I should be able to remove those and pull everything out together. We shall see. Alright, so I found that it was easiest to get a torque wrench in the front to break those bolts loose. Where are they? There they are. Break those things loose. And then, but I only get about one click of play on that. So then I came in from the side here and got it this way. I don't think there's enough room here for the torque wrench. I may be wrong, but anyway, I was able to get it loosened up here. You can see there's a spacer and everything in there. Get it all together, one piece. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. Both bolts are out. Left side. I'm not going to show you the right side. You can tell they're out because the handlebars are down. Just as an FYI, the way I did it was I removed the left bolt completely, which you saw just a second ago, and I laid my arm across the tank holding the opposite side of the bar to support it, reached my other hand around to the front using the ratchet after I'd used the torque wrench to get it loose to finally work the rest of that bolt out and then support the handlebar as it came off. So we can see up in here, it's just kind of hanging loose out in here. There's my wiring harnesses up in there. So I am going to go with just pulling this thing out and we'll see. Looks like we don't have room to come straight out here with the fairing on. Let's see if I can come out sideways. Okay, I'm going to have to do this without the camera. Okay, so handlebar is out. You can see I'm going to have to remove these to put on the new handlebars. Of course, I could just leave that on, it doesn't matter. But and you can see the wiring harnesses here that I labeled through the front. 3 on the left, 4 on the right. You'll also notice that the mirror is off of my master cylinder / brake right hand side. When I was trying to find a place to leave that so I could sit level like it is in here, didn't fit with the mirror. I didn't want to scratch anything up, so I'm going to be replacing the mirrors with the Indian script when I put these back on anyway, so I didn't mind taking that off. So handlebars off. She's quite naked, and I think that's it for today. I'm going to do the rest tomorrow. I've probably got 3 hours into this already, maybe 2. It's hard to tell. I skipped, had dinner, some shit like that. Anyway, finish up tomorrow. Alright, so the next step, according to the directions, is to remove the riser from the handlebars, basically remove both the control switch housings from the handlebars and remove the throttle. So basically strip the handlebars. I'm going to do that now. Alright, original handlebar disassembled. Here I have the riser or neck or whatever the hell it might be called. I have the right side instruments or controls and cluster, and I've labeled, just to be safe, the heated grips. The rest of the bundle goes through. One thing to remember is that when you're pulling this out of the handlebar, you've got this bundle of wires that goes that way towards the front of the bike, out the front of the handlebars, and then of course this way. Well, two of these will come out of the front of the bar by the instrument, by the control cluster, and the heated grip of course will go down the tube to the end of the tube where the grip would be. So you're kind of pulling this one from the center out both directions. It's a little bit easier to pull this side out from the grip end first, and that way you can get all three of these and pull them together. When I did the right hand side, same issue. I did have to pull these through by themselves because the connectors were so close together. They were bunching up on the angle of the tube and where the tube gets narrower. So once you get it to a point where it starts to stick a little bit, pull each one of these out individually. That way they come out smoother. Now I just have to take care of this stripped out freaking bolt that I had to easy out. So I gotta go find one of these before I can put everything back together. Pain in the ass. Okay, so next is to remove the clutch cable. As I stated earlier, I had already removed the pressure from this and loosened the cable so I could get the clutch cable off of the handlebars. So now I just basically have to take this out, which is the kickstand bumper and the clamp for that. From there, it just routes underneath up through a little gap by the engine there. Appears to come up through there. Through a mounting bracket. Where is it? Right there. And then it runs up and out here. I don't think there's anything clamping it. It goes through a little thing here and rolls on down, so it should be fairly simple to get out. I will report back if there are any issues unforeseen. Okay, so got the floorboard off, shift linkage in the shifter. There is just no goddamn way to get this in there. The manual says to loosen all these bolts up here that hold the left side of the frame together. I just called and talked to the guy at Indian. He said, yep, the whole left side has to come off. So, and he says it might have a problem with the frame. I'm going to see how far I can get. I'm going to pull off the left side fairing and see if I can loosen those bolts. I may have to pull off the highway bar also, which means I have to pull off the right side fairing. So, good times. Okay, so pulled off the left lower fairing. Pretty easy actually. Just 3 of these clamps popped right off, sitting over there. Now I loosened this bolt on the highway bar, pulled the two off the front there, and I just tilted it forward. You can see it just goes forward just to get it out of the way. I didn't even probably have to remove the fairing, but I think it's good to have it out of the way. The right hand fairing is still on, just slightly tilted forward. So, according to the instructions, I just need to loosen this bolt, this one, and then these two up here. So I'm going to loosen them, see what happens. See how this thing goes here. Yeah, and if after I loosen those I can't get this out, I'm going to have to trailer this son of a bitch and take it to the dealership. Okay, after much turmoil, it's out. You can see how much play I had to get in here. This is, you can see down in here, if I can get this thing to focus. Come on, focus. You can see how much play there had to be in there to get that out. I just went ahead and removed the rear bolt back here entirely, and I kept toying with loosening a little bit more on each of these bolts. I didn't want to lose any more than I had to. And I did need to get that thing out. So, success. If I can get it out, I can get it in. That's what she said. And now I think I'll have to work on the wiring. Alright, so the next step on the instructions are essentially to put the handlebar back together with the new handlebar and route the cables and remount the controls. So that's my next step. Alright, feeding the wires through was fairly easy. All I did was I took some string, made a little slip knot, tied a bolt around it, and fed it from the center, and then just dropped it down through the bars out. And then I tied that slip knot around the connectors and fed into this end and pulled out of this end, and there they are. So now it's just a matter of getting everything lined up here and feeding the heated grip cable back up that direction. Okay, the right hand side is assembled, wires out there, everything torqued down to 31 inch-pounds, and throttle has free movement. One word of caution on this is when you're feeding the two main bundles through, one of them is connected to the back piece and one is connected to the front. I did have some trouble initially putting this on, connecting it, because the back was in the front was in the back, and they were kind of jamming up in there. So I had to feed them back out a little bit with a little bit of slack, swap them around, and shove them back in so everything went back together smoothly. This thing will only go on in a particular orientation, so no need to worry about lining that up. And of course, I did the same process and ran the line through here to pull the heated grip connection through, and got that connected fine, and the right side is good to go. One other thing to note, you'll notice that I've got my line here running through, and then my slip knot around here. I purposefully staggered the connections so they're not all bunched up side by side trying to go through, and wrapped the line around the first connector so they all kind of pull through together. Seemed to work well on the other side, so I'm about to do that here. Okay, so left side complete. The instructions don't have you putting on the grip until later. I wanted to put the grip on before I put this instrument or control cluster on here, because the screw is up under here and I didn't want to scratch that chrome, so I hooked up the heat and put on the handlebar, the grip first, and then the box, keeping in mind the line for the clutch coming out a little port there. All again torqued to 31 inch-pounds and all set to go back on the bike. All right, so I have got the riser and cap on. Per the instructions, I have torqued the front two to spec, which is 18 foot-pounds, plus or minus 2. So I've got the two front ones torqued, and you notice they're top to bottom on the front and bottom to top on the bottom. So I'm assuming that once we get it mounted, I'll be able to do some finer adjustments. There are these little tick marks. I don't know if you can see on the chrome on the bar to line up with the center. Obviously, it's pretty easy to center the actual riser and cap by assuming the hole's in the very center of the bar. I certainly hope so. It appears to be fairly equidistant between the spaces on the side, a little bit more on this side, so we'll see. I think once I get it on, I should be able to do a little bit of wiggling before I torque down the rear bolts. All right, got the bar just basically propped up on here. Up into where it goes, I gradually fed it forward. I don't know if you can see the wire bundles. The left one over here and the right one right there. I went ahead and fed those through, making sure they're on the inside of the bolts. For if I go outside the bolts, or if I go underneath the crossbar there, it would probably mean the wires have to go too far. So I've got my bundles here. 1, 2, where's my fourth? Oh, there it is, fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the right side, and I've got 1, 2, 3 on the left side. I'll get a little more slack in those once I push the bar all the way forward and mount it. Hopefully I have enough. Should. Anyway, mounting the bar now. All right, so handlebars are on, which is nice to see since that's what started this whole process. And the bolts underneath are, where are they? Right there. Bolts underneath here, torqued to 60 foot-pounds. Next step is the master cylinder, brake lines, make sure that all that runs good. All right, so after getting the handlebars on and checking the way they lined up, I didn't like that this handle this control cluster here seemed to be fine as far as its angular position, but this one here seemed to angle down a little bit. As you can see, there is a guide pin here that is designed to go here. I dremeled out that hole up a little bit to the north, a little bit up, to allow me to rotate this a little bit forward or clockwise from this particular vantage point. So this piece is pretty easy to take off. I think I've got it where I want it. It's pretty easy to take off later without disassembling the entire bike. So I can adjust that more later in the future if I need to. I'll wait to ride it and see how it goes. All right, the right instrument cluster is installed, so I'll have good free motion of the throttle. Got the master cylinder installed. You can see now the this top of this is pretty much level. Over here it's a little more level. That may bother me, it may not, but at least it's not as bad as it was a little bit ago. I've got a good 5 degrees out of it. The brake line feeds just like before down to this clamp. Now previously there was a zip tie right here. Obviously the brake line has to take a little bit more direct path now to that clamp. It appears to have plenty of slack there between the top of the forks and where it mounts to the frame there. There's no slack anywhere else in this to be had, so I think this will be enough anyway. It should be. This is what they sent me. I mean, they didn't send me any of this, so. And I also routed it tight enough so that it seems to rub a little bit against the handlebars, but not against the fairing. They provide little spacers or little protections, things that I'm going to stick to this later after I do a functionality test and make sure that the steering turns without hindrance. Alright, I've got the clutch handle. I just took the mirror off of it just to make it one less thing to deal with. I'm replacing the mirrors anyway, so it makes it simpler. So mounted that, pretty straightforward. There's a spot in the back of the mount for that wire to go through. You can see it there. And of course reconnected the wiring there. And I'll put the cap back over it now. Clutch cable went in much more smoothly than it came out. But definitely had to have that free play in the frame from loosening that bolt, that bolt, that bolt, which has a lock nut back there you have to of course hold, and that bolt and the bolt over behind the kickstand all have to be loosened to let the frame out. I didn't think that I loosened this bolt, but maybe I did. Oh yeah, I did, because I of course rolled the highway bar back. But got the cable in that way, replaced all of the hardware under here, kickstand bumper, which also is a bracket. You've got a little I forget what it's called, a little clamp, C-clamp on the line there. Of course it goes through there and it connects up here. Got some grease in there on the top end. Of course, same thing. Got the line in. This has to be seated all the way in. And had a bunch of free play in there to adjust the free play in the clutch. It's a matter of sliding this down, and you've got some adjustment in there to essentially expand the total casing distance length, so you thereby are adjusting the free play in the clutch. So as you can see, very little free play in the clutch now, and it functions as advertised. So next steps is to reattach the highway bar and reattach the fairing, and then all I really have left is the front end stuff. So whew, man, what a job this has been. Alrighty, let's see. Got the right fairing back on. Pretty simple. 3 bolts holding the clamps. Get that guy on. Of course, it took about half an hour to find the bolt that I dropped, but it's all on, good to go. Now I'm getting ready to put the driver floorboard back on. Okay, floorboard reinstalled. Shift linkage reinstalled at a comfortable height. Now, I think I'm getting down to the point where I can double check. I've already checked the swing of the forks, the wheel. Nothing is binding or catching or rubbing. Everything rolls with it pretty good, which kind of makes sense. I mean, everything rolls down parallel with the forks. The only pivot point is between the top end of the forks and the center. So now I still haven't torqued these lower ones yet. As a matter of fact, I'm going to loosen those just a touch. Just gauging here with my fingers. I've got a little more room on the left side. I want to get the whole handlebar to the left a little bit. So I think I can wiggle those over. Only needs to go about 1/8 of an inch. Alrighty, so I believe I have everything perfectly symmetrical. Took a little muscle work to get those over. Loosening up the bolts here. And I will now torque those back down, torque that brake line clamp, and then it's all headlight area work. Hopefully all those goddamn wire harnesses reach. Okay. Reconnected all the wires. Most of them had plenty of space because they already had slack built into them that was looped over here before we began. So now they just kind of will route right in there. And on the other side, there were a couple where it was tight, like this one. But as you can see, most of them have slack on the top. You can unhook them from these hooks, pull a little bit of slack out to get what you need. I think I wanted to have enough slack to make sure we, this is weird, I wonder what these wires do. It's kind of extra, lots of wires in here. So, I am going to now take the bike off of the dock and test, make sure I've got full turn without binding any wires. Then I'm going to start putting the headlamp and everything back on. Alrighty, headlight and bezel installed. Starting to look like a complete motorcycle again. All I have left is the tank controls. Plug those in, screw it down, should be good to go. Okay, everything is done. Even put the new Indian script mirrors on. So everything's complete. I've done a test start on her. She runs great. Everything appears to be functioning normally, and the job is done.